Jed York fired Trent Baalke, the general manager, and Chip Kelly this weekend. Now, I like Jed York, I really do. And every time I ran into him, be it when we met at the Professionals VIP meetup, a la Jazzy's group a few years ago, or NFL owners meetings, or the bar at the Waldorf Astoria in New York in 2015, or the Super Bowl 50 Bay Lights ceremony last year, we've always had great, engaging conversations. Nice person, awesome to talk to. So it's in that vein that I say that York lacks a long term plan for the San Francisco 49ers organization. That as one with a background in urban planning, I don't have to be in his office to know that he lacks one. However, if Jed invited me to his office, say next week, he could not open the door, pull out a map or sheet or a book, and then walk with me through where the 49ers are going to go or he wants them to go through the next 5 to 10 years. Now, he would say, well, what I'm doing is incremental planning. But as a person who is more than aware of and not a fan of incremental planning, my retort would be that you have to have a long term plan to understand why and how you make changes in that plan as you go. That's incremental planning. Some people think incremental planning is, well, okay, I'll do this today, I'll do that tomorrow, but I've gotten my head where I want to go. That's not incremental planning. That's more seat of the pants. So a lot of people confuse the two. Incremental planning is when you make changes in an overall plan, but you have the overall plan established, which gives you reasons, a raison d'etre for why you make change. But I digress. Jed York does not have that. It's completely lacking. I mean, look, how else to explain what will be 4 49er head coaches in 4 years? Yeah, that's right. Let's work backward. We're going to have whoever the 49ers bring in as their head coach next, which will be at the behest of the general manager that Jed York hires. Last year, 2016, it was Chip Kelly. The year before that, it was Jim Tomsula. And then the year before that, it was Jim Harbaugh. So from 2014 to now, we've had 4 head coaches. How can Jed York claim to have organizational stability with a track record like that? He can't. The San Francisco 49ers of right now remind me very much of how the City of Alameda, California looked prior to when my good friend John Russo was hired in 2011. John had a contract. He stipulated a contract that gave him 5 years. And the reason was that prior to his arrival, Alameda was known as kind of the graveyard of city managers. You go in for 1 year or less and you go out. It was a revolving door. You cannot establish an organizational directive knowing that you're going to be out of the door within a few months at times. John put an end to that. Once he got his 5-year contract, which didn't take long at all because the establishment of that contract was based on relationships he'd taken time to build, he then was able to put his changes in place and then his own policies and move forward. By the time he left to take a similar job in Riverside as city manager last year, John had a number of successes he could point to in Alameda. He could say that Alameda was a better ran city when he left than when he came in. Jed York has no way of making that claim with the San Francisco 49ers, and he hasn't hired anybody in managerial positions who can say that. So where he is at a place where he is running the city of Alameda and needs a kind of a John Russo type. But Jed needs to have his own criteria to find that person. And rather than just say he needs that, I've actually drawn up a criteria list, which I'll read to you because I wrote it down here as part of this vlog. And it goes like this. First of all, on a scale of 1 to 10, because you're hiring the general manager, and the general manager is going to bring the head coach. Does the general manager candidate have NFL budget and business operations experience? Does the general manager candidate understand or have experience with a salary cap and capology? Does the general manager candidate have NFL managerial contract negotiations experience? Is the general manager candidate known to NFL players, which helps in drawing free agents and building a roster of players? Is the general manager candidate known to NFL agents for the same reason? Does the general manager know who's who in coaching and administration at the pro and college level? And can the general manager draw up and discuss a football play and talk about how football strategy has changed? And more to the point, can the general manager discuss what innovations in football strategy have taken place over the last 20 years? Those are the primary criteria on a scale of 1 to 10. Now, Jed York should take that criteria and then you give that to the general manager that hired the general manager based on it, and then give that person, that general manager, a free path to bring in a head coach with the following, basically under the following criteria: player relationships, football strategy innovation, game management experience, and roster movement experience. Now, and the general manager also could just as easily be like Amy Trask, who is CEO of the Raiders, or someone like a Katie Blackburn of the Cincinnati Bengals, who's executive vice president. I don't know if she'd take a general manager role. It'd be a step down for her, but who knows? The whole point is that there are enough women out there at various levels to fill the position of general manager admirably. And not only that, Jed has to think beyond the sport of the NFL and look into other sports for people who might have, be they male or female, black, white, Asian, Latino, character or qualities that fit the criteria. Okay. But the bottom line is, once Jed finds that person, give them a 5-year contract and then sit down with them and the rest of the organization to develop a long-term plan. And don't spend a lot of time on it, but just form clusters of objectives and goals and how you're going to get to the objectives and goals. Put that in place and move forward. And then, when the sea gets rough, stick to the plan, because Jed has not done that. It's been the very seat of the pants. Stick to the plan. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. In 1960, Clint Murchison Jr. hired a young, innovative coach named Tom Landry from the New York Giants. Tom Landry is the inventor of the 4-3 defense, 4 down linemen and 3 linebackers. Landry's first year started 0 wins, 11 losses, and 1 tie. 0-11 and 1. The next 5 years, the Dallas Cowboys did not have better than a 5-game win season. That was it. But in spite of fans' cries to fire Landry, Murchison turned around, recognized that in Tom Landry he had a person who had a plan, and then hired him to a 10-year contract, and the rest is history. Dallas Cowboys legendary head coach Tom Landry cemented not just in NFL history, but in American cultural history too. The father of the flex defense, user multiple offense. I can go on and on and on. The reason why, and I didn't really explain this in my column, but I'll explain it here, you want an innovator is because there's a constant pattern of someone bringing in a new approach in the NFL in particular and achieving great success with that approach because no one has a book on it. What Chip Kelly did with the Eagles is one example in his first and second year. And then, of course, people adopted elements of the Oregon spread offense, and it reshaped the NFL. Prior to that, a long time ago, was Bill Walsh with a very fundamental change in thinking about football offense, particularly controlling the ball with a passing game. And then, of course, there are a number of different examples. There's the famous use with Tony Sparano at the Miami Dolphins, of the wing T, which completely caught Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots by surprise, and they were blown out when it was implemented that one year. Then, of course, the league caught up to it, formed an answer, and went forward. The point that I'm making is that we have a large number of examples of coaches using different approaches and then adjusting those approaches to continue to win. That is why the New England Patriots are successful. For example, Bill Belichick has taken his offensive, or asked his offensive coordinators and coaches to go to places like, well, Florida under Urban Meyer in 2006 and understand the spread offenses he did with Josh McDaniel, and then incorporate elements of that offense into the Patriots offense. And that's a habit, a style that continues today. So constant innovation in football is important, and you have to, in order to have constant innovation reflected in your organization, you have to understand how to find people that are themselves want to be innovative. So Jed needs to really inject that objective into his search. But the bottom line is, once you find that person, you stick with them and give them a long-term plan. Clint Murchison did it, and the rest is history. Jed, it's your turn.